Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you who are watching us this evening. I am Debra Faye, the host of the Debra Show, aka Oracle, and I am so excited to take this different approach to love with my mama Timberlake. Okay, if y'all don't remember, you'll probably have to go back to the first video I did with Anthony Crawford Jr., and we talked about the person that edited his book because she don't play. We call her Mama Timberlake. That's who
Yeah.
we have with us on the Debra Show. And she's going to start off by telling us a lot about herself, as much as she wants to. And then we will get into the questions. Usually people just pick one. Well, Mama Special, she picked three.
Three.
And
Yes.
I'm not the one to tell her no. So come on
Uh,
and give us some of that pinwheel love, Mama Timberlake, and
thank
introduce yourself.
you. Thank you. I am just first, let me say, in much gratitude to be here this evening. And it is just a very wonderful time during a time that may not be wonderful for a lot of people, but it is wonderful in order, for me to be here and being able to have this engagement with you and and your viewers. And so I'm just really excited to be able for us to come together and share, because anytime we're together, there's just this godliness that comes out. And I know that, there are things that take us out of what we know to be our physical human experience. And so, when certain people show up in my life, and I know that we're going to have an exchange, I really get excited because I know that it's going to be highly divine. It's going to be something learned, you
Yes,
know.
yes.
And so I just appreciate you having this platform and having me here this evening. So homage to you, love.
All right, all right. But that's not all, honey, because you've been in magazines. Girl,
I know.
come on, let's talk about that girl on that cover.
I, so just a little bit about me. I'm born and raised in Oklahoma. My family is primarily from the Spencer area. I
Mhm.
grew up on the northeast side of Oklahoma City, right off of 6th and Lottie.
Yeah.
I actually attended high school in Indianapolis, though, and then I came back to Oklahoma to attend Langston University. And
Ew, you.
of course, LU. So I got I studied education there. And so, being a teacher
Mhm.
has always been part of my path. I just didn't know then that it was much broader than
Mhm.
what I thought. I thought me being a teacher meant me being in a classroom, using a curriculum written by other people. I didn't know that the teacher that I was would expand, would be extended from those walls or go outside of those walls. And I would probably say from the age of about 4, I always knew that I had this clairvoyance about myself. I was always a very, they call it lucid dreaming in the language in which we speak. So
Mhm.
I had very, lucid dreams. But I think the thing that I noticed the most about myself is that when anyone would pass in my family,
Mhm.
they would always come back to me in a dream as themselves. And there would be these conversations, or it may be something that they leave for me to tell someone else. And so having that really sparked my interest into learning about the soul
Yeah.
and the spiritual self, because that's not a physical experience, right? That's something that takes us outside of our day to day.
Mhm.
And so once I opened myself up to that and then began, reading and listening to different things, it just really opened my world up to understanding spirituality from the spirit space and not the religious space,
Cool.
if that's clear.
That's very
And
clear.
it took me to many different places around the world. But I think the most beautiful thing that happened is that every time I went to a place, I always ended up in front of one of the highest spiritual or religious practitioners for that place, right? So I knew that
Right.
these happenings that were occurring in my life were not just coincidence, you know.
Right.
So I've had the honor to study with and in front of some very, very intuitive people.
Mm-hmm.
I would even say religious people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I would say if I had to sum them up, I would probably use the word transparent.
Right.
So really living their life from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was around 27 or 28, I began, and it was my time in Japan. I had moved to Japan. They really began to challenge me to live in mine as well. And so with that, I didn't know at the time, like, how do I begin to live in this space,
Right.
And at the time, because you have to think about when I was growing up and everything, it was always about you go to college, you get a job, you do
Yes.
these things, and then that's who you are, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So for me, I was having these double worlds. So it was like I was doing all of that, very successful and great job and all these other kind of things, but I still wasn't fulfilled spiritually,
Right.
not religiously, because I've always been a very obedient person. So you can put any religion in front of me and I can follow it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, I wasn't growing, right? So that
Right.
growing and that knowing and that understanding still had a void.
Mm-hmm.
And so during that time, I said, well, my work life, right? And then my when I come home and I'm meditating and doing all these other things that have nothing to do with what's happening outside, it kept being this
Right.
cliche. And literally felt like I was what is it called, like on the fence, kind of,
Yes.
like one foot in, one foot out.
Uh-huh.
And I actually began to physically react to that, so I started getting sick. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's when I knew when I really had to choose, and it wasn't choosing one of the or the other, but what it was really me choosing myself and understanding once I chose myself, all those things would come together. And
Right.
I to see that my job as an educator and a teacher, that is my job, but it wasn't just in that component. Like wherever I am, I'm going to be an educator or a teacher. If I'm sitting down on the bus stop and I'm talking to someone in San Francisco, there's going to be some type of exchange where I
Right.
am being the learner or being the teacher. And so once I was able to see that, um, I was able to walk in any space and understand why I was there and my purpose for being there. And so that took me into life coaching, because I said, well, I still need to do, I still need to be able to reach the people. And I didn't really know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing life coaching and doing one-on-one spiritual mentoring. So when I with public, so I would say that's probably around 2015, and I started doing those things. And so it really opened the door
Right.
for me to get in front of audiences, to talk with people, or have small gatherings so people could feel safe, because they were looking for themselves as well.
Right.
And so that's really kind of how I got to where I am today. um, so 2017, I decided to move to Indonesia. I wanted a change, so I decided to move to Indonesia. And I didn't know this at the time. But I was planning on, well, I wanted to find a place where I could just stay overseas. I didn't want to have to come back, maybe come back for visa reasons, but other than that.
Right. Right.
But my time over there wasn't about that. It was really about me understanding my self-love.
Ooh,
And I had thought I had done all this work, and,
yeah.
I knew who I was and all these things, but that entire year was all about self-love and self-worth for me. And
Mm-hmm.
it really groomed me for where I am today. And not so much from what we would call romantic love space, but
Right.
from a love of understanding myself and who I am, because now the works that I give out is just my love.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not something that I have to try to make or create or try to do it. Naturally happens, because it is an extension of who I am. So I do it
Exactly.
all the time. All I want to do is love, and that's sharing my love, whether it is through gardening. I started my non-for-profit, Lillian Timber Farms,
Yeah.
and we're creating gardens on the northeast side of Oklahoma City.
Mhm.
I have an organic tea that should be coming out next month.
Yeah.
And also an extension of, my love. I love working with different plants and spices and herbs. And so that's another extension of my love.
Mhm.
I'm also, I'm working for the school district again because I did miss being able to work with the kids, but I just didn't know how I needed to be there. And so when it showed itself, it felt right. And that's always my number one indicator. Does this feel right?
Mhm.
And so, I'm back there and I love that. And, it is an extension of my love there. And so, when I'm out of the office, they're like, where are you, Timberlake? Or what's going on? And so I just really got very focused on
Right.
how do I share my love with others without, though, deplenishing my love for myself. Yeah.
Ooh, you ain't done. Tell us how you ended up in that magazine on the cover.
Yeah. So let me tell you how this, okay. So maybe, oh my goodness. So while I was in Indonesia, I actually did The Artist's Way by Julian Cameron.
Mhm.
And one of the things that you have to do is you have to write down like all of the things that bring you joy that you would want to do. And so I've always loved fashion. And so modeling was on my list. So, when you're going through these self-help things, you write your list out and you do all this, like how do you see yourself? So I didn't think anything of it. Like, okay, when I get to it, then, I'll be like, oh, that happened.
Right, right.
One day I get an email from Erin from Cooper House, and she was like, "I saw you at the Ralph Ellison Gala.
Mhm.
I have a client that has a shoe boutique, and wanted to know if you wanted to model." And so I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So I'm thinking because I've never modeled before, it
Right.
was professional and so legit. So then I get there, and it's Betsy King. She's at Betsy King's boutique, but I knew her from when she first started years ago and
Right.
oh,
Right.
and she
Full
was there
circle.
up with someone else. And so as soon as there, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. So I call myself a senior model because for the modeling world, 41 is a little late in the game. But like I told a friend the other day, I said, I'm starting a new game. So I had the honor of shooting for her
Mhm.
and actually made the back cover of, I think it was Historical Oklahoma. And then I did the other photos got in 405 magazine.
Mhm.
So yes, I know. And
Yes.
I'm terrible about letting people know what's going on because it's always things happening. And so it
Okay.
was so funny. My family, they had a small gathering. And so there's this magazine, and my mom was like, "Oh, did you see that advertisement?" I was like, "Did you see me?" She was like, "You were in there?" And so I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh my goodness." So yeah, so that was pretty funny. Yeah.
I love your way of movement. I love the way you move. And what I mean by that is rather than letting everybody know what's going on with you, you
Mhm,
always you do it and then you be it and you
mhm.
do and you be. And it's like then that's when we find out about it. The
Yes,
rest of us is
yes,
after it's been done. And that's great because that's a great way to keep the momentum of your energy
yes,
because
yes.
sometimes when you tell people what you're doing in advance before you've done it, then they start feeling a particular kind of way, and then
Mhm.
you get all these vibrational energies mixing in with your flavor.
That's right. That's right.
And
Yeah.
so one of the things that I've learned is not to talk about things until after I've
Mm,
done it. It's
mhm.
like this is not what I'm going to do, but this is
Right.
what I've done already. And
Right.
so then,
Right.
now I'm moving into another space. Anyway, that was wonderful, Mama. Let me
Yes.
turn like I'm looking at you. Anyway, we always have such a wonderful time when we see each other. Um,
Oh, oh.
so are you ready? I'm
Yes.
I'm gonna read off which questions did you select?
I selected 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, y'all. Here we go. Let me this is what she did, okay? What level of maturity
Yes.
are we looking for in our potential love partner or partners? Do we change up the normal expected questions like, so tell me about yourself, to something that immediately addresses a priority of ours that our potential love partner must have as a part of their personality, characteristics, or some other expectation of ours? Lastly, number 9, should we make agreements not to try to impress each other and be our natural selves? Come on, mama. Come on,
Yes.
mama. Let us know about this different
So,
approach.
yes. And I want to start with 9 and then work up. Right. Okay.
See, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Y'all, this is what I'm talking. This is what Anthony Crawford Jr. and anybody that knows, no, you don't set the flow. She sets her own flow and then you just follow. And that's what we're doing. This is my different approach this
Yes.
evening. Is go ahead, mama. You start
Yes.
wherever you want to.
Yeah, it feels good to let's start there and then move. And so, when I feel about, and I like to say feel about instead of think,
Yes.
because thoughts are easily swayed, but feelings are hold on and they'll stick. You really
Yes.
have to. And so when I think about number 9 and talking about like how we communicate with one another, and the word that stands out is agreements,
Yes.
right?
Okay.
And for me, in my experience, it is that agreement or that contract,
Mhm.
because it's not just about the physical. So you're actually in any type of ship, you're going into a soul
Wait a
contract with
minute. Did you
another.
say in any type of ship?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, mama.
So in any type of ship, you were, and a lot of times it may be an old contract or it may be something new. And so I think when you are coming into this agreement, you have to be very intentional with what you are agreeing upon, because what has happened in our outside physical world experience is that we've been given scripts,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
from TV, from radio, from being around people, from schools, from music, you can go into a store and there's a script happening. And if you're not aware of it, next thing you know, you buying all kind of stuff. See, that's a script. They're telling you how to show up in this space, right? So when you don't have that type of awareness, somebody else is controlling you. And
Mhm.
so when we're talking about love in the space of people coming together, the same thing happens. They have shown us and taught us how we're supposed to love, right?
Right.
So you have to be very intentional with how you're going to arrive and show up for this person. Now, if both of y'all, excuse me, are full of shit, then it's going to be a full of shit.
All right then.
You
So
know,
now when it's applying to you
yeah.
and your potentials, are they ready?
A lot of times, no. So this is what happens to me a lot. It's like a lot of men, they love the idea of me, because
Okay.
it's a beautiful space to be in,
Right.
right? And an idea is easier to work with than the real thing.
Right. Right.
Right, because when you have the idea is just the start, but when you really try to bring that idea to life, that's where the work comes in.
Mhm.
And I find, number one, which will go into one of the other questions, is that a lot of men, the question about maturity is not so much maturity, is that they don't have enough what I call emotional collateral
Wow.
or emotional
I
assets.
love that. I love that emotional collateral with that
Yes.
with that intentional agreement.
Yes. And so, so when you're coming together, you definitely need to be intentional with what that agreement is going to be, how you're going to show up for one another. So if we say, we're going to be transparent,
Mhm.
so
'Cause
for example,
that's what that not impressing. Not
not
impressing means transparency.
right, because impressing,
Mhm.
that is a very social contract thing.
Yes. Okay.
You see impressing all day in our social contracts. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're coming with something from a spiritual space of love, that social contract doesn't fit in there. That's why a lot of times people that say, oh, I met this person, but they weren't ready. And a lot of times they weren't ready
Mm-hmm.
because they're trying to bring in a social contract rule into something that is not social at all.
Right, right.
Mm.
This is
So
a one-on-one agreement,
yeah,
intentional agreement ship.
yeah,
It's only
yes,
two people on this ship.
that's right. And for me, it is, anyone that sees me,
Mm-hmm.
it's always growth happening. So if you're not, number one, open to growth, it's not going to work because it's not always me pushing somebody to grow because I would never invade anybody's personal choices.
Right.
However, the energy that I bring off is a growth type energy. So if you have other issues like insecurities and things like that, it's going to set you off because you're going to automatically feel like you are less than because I'm always depositing.
Yeah. Ooh,
So,
depositing. You said depositing. So
yeah,
before you go any, hold up. Let me just do a quick recap and then okay.
yeah,
So we got that agreement
yes,
away from a social
con,
contract, okay?
yes,
And we're dealing with the intentional, being
yeah,
intentional, intentionally being transparent.
yes. So, so even, with my boyfriend now, like every day, and I told him this, like, I'm setting an intention to every day letting you know how I feel about you.
Uh, I love that.
Every day,
Okay, I love
every
that.
day, in some type of way.
Hmm.
Because because I know you, because you told me it's important for you to know that,
Hmm.
right? And it's important for me to be able to live in that space.
Hmm.
So, and I know what we want to create. So let's create it.
Right, right,
It's really
right,
not challenging,
right.
but you have to be able to be in a space where you are open to that.
Yeah, a heart
Like, are
that's
you
not
really?
giving, a heart
Yeah,
that is not giving is not living.
that's right. That's right. That's right. And so every day,
Mhm.
like I'm very intentional with that. Very intentional with that. Yes.
Yes.
And he,
So
mhm,
keep on going because you got
yes,
seven,
yes.
seven, 8, 9. Mhm.
So once you are able to come into a space, and it's not about being transparent where it's like I'm telling all my business and because one of the other things that I respect
Mhm.
is I respect someone's past.
Yes.
And not from the space of that, oh, this in the past and it doesn't matter, because it does matter, because everything that we experience does form and shape us in some way.
Right.
But it doesn't matter in the sense of what you're trying to do now in the present.
Mhm.
And so when I'm talking about that transparency and being open with someone, that is saying, like, I may have some war wounds or some scars,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to allow them to affect what it is I want now.
Yes, with that particular individual.
Yeah. Yes. And so that's the type of transparency. So I wanted to clear that up because a lot of times people think, well, you got to know everything and I want to be free and delivered and I don't, and it's like, you don't have to get that permission from anybody. You can just do that yourself. So
Now, and before you took a journey of self-love that
yes.
brought you into the strength that you
Yeah.
have to even tackle questions 7,
Yeah.
8, 9.
Yeah.
So, I mean, where were you as you took that journey, that when you
Oh,
came out of it, it produced.
there's this song, I think it's Erica Badu, and she says, I'm a recovering over lover.
Uh,
Maybe recovering undercover over lover.
uh,
It's in one her song. That's it. I'm a recovering undercover over lover.
uh,
Yes.
okay.
And what I realized, so within myself, I've always been a loving, kind person,
Yeah.
right? But what I had to really come into my truth with is that I also expected that back.
Hmm.
So I thought just me loving someone the way that I did would be enough for them to love me back.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to understand that no one has to love anybody unless they choose to.
Exactly. Yes.
And so that was really why I was met with that self-love lesson, because even though I was such loving and giving and kind and all of those things, it wasn't about me. See, I was doing it, I was pushing it out, but I never was bringing anything in.
Right. Right.
Yeah. I never was bringing anything in. So when people would make their choices and it didn't align with what I thought they should, remember I said
Mm-hmm.
thought they should have been doing,
Mm-hmm.
then I felt as if they were not giving me what I needed.
Right.
When when I really look at it in its truth, I was too much anyway. Like they didn't have it to give me anyway, you know, and not for that to come off as negative or derogatory, but it's just like sometimes some things just aren't enough.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That
And that's
level,
what it
maybe
is.
they weren't on that level of loving.
No.
Maybe on that level of loving themselves first, uh,
Yeah.
because now, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm gonna put this out there. So was it kind of like, because I kind of feel like you and I we parallel with
Yeah.
our love, and it's so
Yeah.
robust,
Yes. Yeah.
and so are we saying, or are you saying, or are we in agreement that, did we, you and I, come to this conclusion? I'm finna,
Mm-hmm.
if we
Mm-hmm.
came to this same agreement that a person, just because a person's not in that position or on that level of giving where we are,
Mm-hmm.
what they're giving doesn't mean that they don't love us. It just
Right.
means that they're not, uh, uh,
Right. So
you
for
know,
example, I may be at level 42 and they're on 13.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
And
is that's when we have to find a way unconditionally to
yes.
love them, to try to revamp how
Oh yeah.
much we love them, and
Yeah.
pull back, or
I've loved out of a lot of situations.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that exactly. And so when you are, okay, because I'm gonna double back,
Mm-hmm.
and I gotta tell my audience something. She got a boyfriend. Mama, hey, hey, I don't know who he is. Um, but
Yes.
yeah, so
I
what is
know.
that like? What is that like? You're level 42 with your loving,
Yes.
and
He's with me.
okay.
Actually, he has some things that I haven't been comfortable with. So it's also bringing me up, which is a first ever, right? Yeah.
Ooh,
I know. Yes. Yes.
stop, stop.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
uplift, making you
Uplift.
grow.
Yeah.
He's making you grow. He's
Yes.
challenging you. He's
He's
challenging
challenging.
you.
Yes. Yep. He's challenging me. And the beautiful thing is that not only, he challenges me, but he also has the sensitivity, um, and, within himself to be okay with being patient with me in order for me to arise. Yeah.
So, are we talking about a level of maturity that includes some sensitivity? Talk to
Yes.
me. Come on,
So that,
talk to me.
that's
Talk
why I
to me.
said 7, 8, 9, right? So
Yeah,
now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
8. So now as we go into 8, we talk about that level of maturity. And I think it also ties back to 9 as well, because even within my own work of self-love, there had to be a space of maturity that I had to have for myself.
Mhm.
We had that saying, I had to put my big girl panties on, and I
Oh,
had
okay,
to,
okay. Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
had to first forgive myself for some of the things that I had done, real things, but
Mhm.
then also forgiving myself for creating this false expectation of what my love was supposed to look like based on social contract.
Okay. Now, did you know at that time that your love was based on what you're now calling a social contract? Because in actuality, now number 7 is the one where we deal with the maturity, and number 8 is the one where we're dealing with the we move away from that. So tell me about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So let's do 7 and then we'll come to 8, because the
Okay.
8 is what it looks like.
Okay. Come on.
Okay. So let's do 7, because 7 is like the foundation of what you need in order to go into what it can look like.
Okay.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
you have to reach that after you come out of the journey of self-love.
Yes. Yes. And then going into, now, do I have, like, do I really have what I need in order to support and hold this up? Because I had decided to not date anymore. Like, I was just like, you know what? I have a lot of things that I can focus on. But I remember going to the meditation center. So every year, probably for the last 6 years, I would go to the meditation center in Kaufman. It's 10 days, silent meditation, no books, no nothing, and no phones, none of that, no TVs. And so the last time I went, like, I thought, okay, this is my 6th time, like, whoo. And I remember day 5. I remember day 5. So this had to be 2018.
Yeah.
Because we get to go this past year. Yeah. So maybe 2018, 2019. I can't remember.
Right.
So I'm there, and day 5, I'm sitting there in meditation. I'm just like, I don't think I'm gonna make it. Like, this is a rough one. I'm sitting there, and I felt this like push, like this push. And I was just like, what is this? Like, and it was emotionally all of, like, my past lovers.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm done with them. Like, but what I realized is that some of them energetically were not done with me.
Come on, now, how'd it go? Energetic. Are you saying energetically or energetically?
Inner.
Okay.
So, like, maybe I was still on their mind. Maybe they were still talking about me, maybe. And so that was this pull, right, that I was feeling. And so what I had to do was release myself for them.
Ooh. How'd you do that?
And I just sat in meditation, like, cleared myself and just gave them permission to go. Like, yeah, like, y'all can go. Yeah.
So that if you see them in person, what was
Oh,
that?
it's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's, because of the joy that I bring, because even though things may have not ended the way that we probably would have wanted them to, I've never had any malice or, no malice at all. Yeah. And it was more so at a spiritual level than here in the physical, where people are still holding on, or, you may see sometimes people like, oh, I wish I was with somebody that was like this or had that. And people don't know, like, when you're speaking things like that, right? You're casting out things, to come into formation. So, yeah. So I just kind of had to, like, spiritually let go of those soul ties. Yeah.
So when you let those soul ties go, they say when you create a void, you have to put something else in its place.
Yeah.
Now, did you feel empty?
So that's when I started gardening.
Okay.
So I was taken to the earth.
Okay. Different approach to love. Yeah.
Yeah. An approach to love. But it really taught me about, when I was in Hawaii on the farm, it really taught me about relationships, like looking at the different species of plants and how they, these ships that they have together, and how they care for one another, and how one may provide shade for one, and then another will provide nectar for another, the cross cropping. And then while I
What
was
about
there,
the soil? What about the soil, Mama?
yes, like even the soil, because what some people don't understand, in some parts of Hawaii, they are using volcanic rock that they are breaking down and grinding back to create, this soil.
Mm-hmm.
So even the soil, one of the beaches there is black sand,
Yeah,
which was volcanic rock, right?
right.
And so, even that, you see the relationship of the soil, and then so you're on this volcanic rock, but then you have these beautiful coconut trees that are growing, up out of this volcanic rock,
Yeah,
right?
darkness,
Supposed to be dead.
blackness.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so it really showed me, like, really about relationships. And that's why I started using like ships, because I think a lot of times when we think of relationships, we go strictly into romantic man woman, or woman woman, or man man, or but a ship is just the coming together of the souls. So I like to use ship because it doesn't put it in a box, because however I show up, even my ship with you, I'm coming with the same type of respect and vulnerability, and
Right,
coming with the same type of love and understanding and listening and wanting the best for you, you
right,
know
right.
and so it's just not about, oh, I have to have this kind of ship for that kind of person. It's like, no, when I show up, like, this is me showing up in all of my ships.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate you using determining and deciding to use ship instead of romantic, because even when I hear the word, romantic or romance, I hear kind of sounds like a man that's just roaming about.
Yeah. Yes.
He just,
Yes.
just wrote, and he's kind of lunatic about it, maybe obsessed. This man that roams about kind of in a crazy, because some people say
Yeah.
love will make you crazy. Um,
That's right.
and so maybe he's just so full of this love that is, that if he doesn't roam about and share it with, and that goes for women too, that they just, so romantic, I prefer ships.
Yes. And I tell people a lot, a lot of times some of my best, and I have to, because sometimes when we hear the word love making, we think of sex.
Mhm.
I don't mean
Yeah,
sex when I
right.
love making. It's context. So
Mhm.
some of my best love making is when I'm through my food.
Oof.
So when you really get into that space, it can be mind blowing, because you're taking it out of the social context
Right.
of what love to be, when you really get to its essence. And I was telling a friend the other day, like, when people say, oh, I'm in love, or I love you, but then something happens, and I'm like, that's not love, because love doesn't do that. Love doesn't do that. Like, love can only be love. It's only going to be that, you know and really in it, it's
Yeah,
only
it's hey,
say it's too good to be true. No, it's not too good to be true. It just is true.
yes,
You-
it just is.
It just is.
It just is, which brings me to I want to hear you expound on, see, you used the word love. You didn't say unconditional love,
Uh,
conditional love. You just
Yeah.
used the word love. And that
Yeah.
was something which is something on my mind. And while I got you here, I definitely want you to speak on it. Is, do you think, because you said that's just love. People said love making, they go straight to
Mhm.
sex,
Yeah.
because the and intimacy can be between any gender, because you said your best love making is like through your food. Well, for
Yeah.
me, your best love making with me is when I
Yeah.
see you and you smile.
Ah, thank you. Yeah.
Like, and
Yes.
then I just bust out into this big old,
Yes.
so it can go all kinds of ways. So do you think that there is such a thing as conditional love, unconditional love, uh, in retrospect of all of the of love? Should it just be
Right.
love? Did somebody add conditional? Did somebody add unconditional? Isn't it just love?
I in my experience, it's just love. And when you just get to the space of love, so when you start, so for me, when you begin to add unconditional and they have the agape and they have all of these things. So for me, that those are distractions
Yes, yes,
because now I have to, it takes me out of love and brings me into these other things
yeah, yeah.
because love is love. I was talking to some people, they were talking about the things that are happening with the politics, not to derail or anything.
Right, right. Go ahead.
I said, at the end of the day,
Mhm.
regardless of what's happening politically and the government and all of those things, when we follow love,
Mhm.
it's righteous. So all this other stuff won't even matter because love doesn't move like that. Love doesn't tear people down. Love doesn't, um try to deceive people. Love doesn't do that. And so a lot of things that are saying they have love in them, they don't.
Right,
That's not love.
right.
You,
Because
you
my mind goes to,
that's not
and
love.
I'm gonna throw this Bible verse in
Mm-hmm.
there. What is that? First Corinthians 13 verses 4 through 5. When it talks of, it gives you a description of love. Love
Mm-hmm.
is kind. Love is long suffering. And I got
Yeah.
love is not vain. And it gives you a description of what love is and is not.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we need these other distractions of conditional, unconditional, when it's just love?
Yeah. Because if I'm loving you
Hmm.
from my highest self, it's unconditional anyway, because I'm not creating any condition in which I love you because I love you
Yeah,
just as you are.
yeah,
We were talking about earlier, my boyfriend and I, like one of the things that we always say when we're speaking is no judgment.
right.
And we intentionally say that because
Hmm.
socially,
Hmm.
when people speak, it's a judgment.
It
And
is.
so we are intentionally saying no judgment to first reprogram ourselves, right?
Right,
So it's
right.
like you have to get out of that. But then
Yes.
also, it's also letting you know, like, this may be a little challenging for me, but I still want to be vulnerable and transparent. And so I want to have that grace,
Did you
right?
use the word vulnerable?
Yes, yes,
We
yeah,
got vulnerable, we got vulnerable now. We got sensitivity with some maturity. We got
yeah.
some intentional stuff with our transparency that ain't trying to find out all about your past. And we got
Yeah.
woo, mama, you got a whole lot of stuff going on. Uh
789. I
seven,
know.
eight, nine. 789. Come on with it. When you talk about vulnerability, being vulnerable with no judgment. What does
Mhm,
that look like? I mean, when, say, for instance, when your boyfriend says no judgment,
mhm.
do you kind of go, like
I
you got to reprogram? It's like
no,
a glitch in the matrix. What's that?
no, I think it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Like when he says that, and a lot of times he's a comic too. He has a lot of wit. So a lot of times I'm thinking, how is he going to phrase it?
Yeah,
He loves making me laugh.
right, right,
And
right.
so that's usually the first thing. But what comes to me is this is like, I appreciate that. you
Wow.
know, because that's when people talk about the work, like that's part of the work, right? Like there's something I want to share with you, but I'm not really sure how you're going to feel it, but I want to feel safe with you. So
Does
that's
that
him
does
saying,
that
like,
does that get immediate trust? Because
oh, yeah.
now, because a little bit about numerology. Number seven. Seven usually deals with issues of trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when the two of you are saying no judgment, is that like a pass of trust
Yes,
immediately?
that's exactly
Trust
what it
is something you have
is.
to
Yeah.
work on, but now
Yeah.
you're talking about immediately in that
We
moment.
build it. Yes. Yes. Yeah. In the moment. Yes. But that's
you don't get
in.
nervous. You don't get
Oh
nervous.
no, no, no. Because that for me, that is part of that maturity
Okay.
where I can come to you as I am.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That is maturity. It's just like the first time you're nude around someone. Like
Yeah.
some people are just like, oh, because people know me. Like it's a body. Like we all have bodies, so it's no problem for me. But I understand like some people, they are very uncomfortable
Yeah.
being nude
Yeah.
in front of people. And
Right.
so for me, when we're able to engage in that way, it's just like being able to be nude in front of someone and not be afraid or thinking that somebody's looking at you or, wondering, like, oh, is she, she thin or, you know what I'm saying? Nothing like that.
Or thick. Or thick. And,
I think, yes, yeah.
and gravity. And we ain't all perky. We ain't all running around here
And I
perky,
just
perky,
all the
perky.
time,
Yeah.
just because that people understand, like I'm much older than I appear to be. So, and I'm not working with a lot, but what I'm working with, gravity has definitely taken its toll. Definitely.
And you know what? You can't tell. You
You
definitely can't. No, you can't
yes.
tell it, girl. You cannot tell it. You holding it together well. You're holding it up. You're holding it down, girl. You're
Right,
holding it. Okay.
right.
Okay. So now, uh, how did this boyfriend slip in? I mean,
I know. I
uh,
know. So
he had to
he,
be. Boy, life did something.
he's
It's like
amazing
you wasn't even expecting it.
at all. He's amazing. And so what happened is we actually went to college together.
Okay.
Um, but I had a serious relationship in college, and so did he. And so we knew each other, but it never was anything
Mhm.
romantic. Just like somebody on the campus. You know what I'm saying? I knew of him. We knew mutual people and things like that. And so I never really thought anything about him in terms of being a partner.
Right.
You know, but he's always been a very great person. Very kind-hearted,
Mhm.
very intuitive.
Mhm.
Definitely like he's a man. He's a man.
Yeah.
And so he would, and I'm on and off of social media. I'm back on now, like I'm on now. But there were times where I was in and out, because I was still finding my grounding, and it was a distraction, and I didn't want any distractions. And so there were a couple of times he would be in there like, hey, how you doing? Like different times throughout, probably definitely the past 15, 20 years, I guess.
Right.
Definitely, I would get messages here and there,
Mhm.
but I didn't, think really anything of it. And so I actually had been talking to this other guy some months ago, but it just wasn't going anywhere. It's like I realized like he actually came into my life in order for me to be open for somebody.
Mhm.
Like that's another thing with ships, is that you have to really understand why the ship is happening, and not thinking like every time you meet somebody like that person is who you're supposed to be with. Like you can be with them in a certain type of way, but that doesn't mean you have to be with them.
Mhm.
Right. And so I realized that like with this person, there were things that he did, but he didn't do things that actually align with what I needed.
Mhm.
And so once I recognized that, I was like, okay, so this was just really about me being open to dating again. Like I got it. Like, oh, okay, I see what this is about.
Because you was
So
through. You said you was done dating. I mean,
right,
you had
right.
it was a TKO. You
I
know.
was, and not from a sense of like, oh, I'm just tired of men and anything like that. I was just like, there are other things that I can do, and I'm okay with that.
Right.
It
Right.
wasn't like I'm tired of men and they ain't no good. No, I love men.
Oh, that's so refreshing
Honey,
that it wasn't
love.
that. You know.
Yes, it wasn't that. Oh no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Mhm.
Um, And so once I closed that, then it was like, boom, immediately he showed up. And so, I told you he was witty. And so he was like, "Are you married yet?" And so I was like, "Are you taking applications?" And so that's literally like how the conversation started. And so began to like talk. And so he was like, "I want to see you." And so I was like, "Okay, men, a lot of times they, yeah, I want to see you and this and that." But no, he showed up like, "No, I want to see you." Yeah. And he was like, "I've been waiting on this my entire life to like spend time with you."
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
very sincere right off the jump. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
outstanding. That is
Yeah.
wonderful. And and I know for myself, knowing you for some years,
Yeah. Yes.
uh, this is gonna be different. To
It's different.
see when if I happen to see the two of you together, because
Yeah.
I've never seen you with any of
I know. No one
your
has.
companions.
I know. I know. It's beautiful though. It really is.
All
It
right.
is so beautiful. I am so excited.
We're gonna have to
And
have a coming out. We have to give a coming out
yeah,
engagement.
and he would love to be. Oh goodness, this would be right up his alley. Like we're gonna be on the show together. So yes, he's definitely all about. And what I love about him is that he is really the first man to really take interest into my loves,
Right.
not just like what I can do for him or bring to him, but like the things that I had already been doing for myself,
Mhm.
So he's been over to the garden. I mean, he's very involved in,
Wow, that is
yeah, I'm
awesome.
doing. I
Um,
appreciate that. Yeah.
So he doesn't
Yeah.
mind getting down in the soil with you and talking about the plants with you, and,
I know. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
getting in the kitchen with you,
Right.
uh, your meditations.
Yes. Yes. Now
You,
he said, now
you unplug.
the only thing he did say, he was like, "Okay, babe, I don't know about 10 days. Like if you going back to the meditation center," I don't know. I can't talk to you for 10 days. So yeah, he's so funny.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I go for 3.
So see, now we've entered into an agreement.
Yes.
Um, and this is what happens when we incorporate another person into
Yeah.
our lifestyle that is routinely, you'd go to the meditation center, you do your
Yeah.
10 days. Now you
Yeah.
got honey sugar all up
I know.
in your mix talking about 10 days I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
And you said okay.
But he's very open to the things that bring me joy. And I
Yeah,
appreciate. So,
yeah.
even though he may be jokingly or whatever, and I was like, "You need to just try it, see what you like." He was like, "I'm not sitting down that long." But I can appreciate that at least he takes interest in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because a lot of times you can come into relationships, because even in a relationship that is not with my partner, like I've had family members like, "Oh, I don't know about how to do that." You know what I'm saying? But still not being supportive. And so that's why, I mean, when we have to show up in ships, like we really have to have our awareness around like all the ships, because
Mm-hmm.
it may not be your partnership
Mm-hmm.
that is causing an issue. It could be another ship that's actually causing the issue that may create something for the partnership.
Here's the visual that came into, because so we got talking about these ships, and you know how
Yeah.
when you go on a ship, say a cruise,
Yeah.
they go into different ports,
Mm-hmm.
and they have other ships. You can
Mm-hmm.
get off of your ship and go on to another ship. As long as y'all we docked, we
Right.
port.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the visual that you just
Yeah.
gave. It's other ships, and we have to be able to explore them with no judgment
That's right. Yeah.
and recognize when we have entered into another ship or we're on another ship. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, when we do that, Mama T, how do we maintain the stability, of not being so distracted when we get
Mm-hmm.
on and off of these, other ships, that we
Right. Right.
maintain the main ship, you know,
And you know that,
the
and I think
mothership,
that's
the
why,
mothership, the
right, the
mothership.
mother, right. And I think that's why my journey started with the self-love, because that's the mothership is
That
you.
is the mothership. You.
That is the mothership. Mm-hmm.
That is
It's you.
awesome. I would have
Yeah.
never come to that type of analogy or conclusion, that the
Mhm.
self love is the mothership.
That's the
And you
mothership.
have to have that ship before you can deal with any of the questions.
That's right.
Before you can even think about dealing or approaching love.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about, now we use the word spiritual a lot. I've taken to wanting to use the term soulful.
Okay.
Uh, you know, because there can be all kinds of spirits.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, yet when you use the word soul, it seems more inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, like it's an all kind of thing. When
Yes.
you say soul, it's not this soul and that soul, and you said, a
Yeah.
soulful type of, it sounds more fulfilling, and that's what. So now you're not done. I know you're not done, because we're gonna get as much of this wisdom
Yes.
as we can, dealing with maturity, uh,
Yes. Purity. That.
sensitivity,
Yes.
being vulnerable, no judge, having to create a safe space.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so did y'all select no judgment as your safe word when you know you're going into your safe space? How did
Yeah.
that
Just
come about?
because of, I think there was a conversation and it was just like, well, people judge people all the time.
Hmm.
I mean, and I really think it stemmed from, because of, we are older in life and it's like we knew each other when we were younger, and it's the LU family. So everybody knows everybody, right?
Hmm.
And
Yes.
and I think it really stemmed from, like, we live in this world where it's like, what do other people think or what they see?
Hmm.
And so for us, I think it was really coming to a space of understanding that we don't care, you know,
Right.
what people may see or what they may think or feel. And so, in order for us to really get into that space, like for ourselves, and then we're not going to bring in that. So, there won't be any type of judgment
Hmm. 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 Totally,
because
we're totally done
we're
with
already
social.
judged by, you're already being judged. So, it's
Yeah.
like, why do we need to bring that into this space? It's enough of that already happening, even if you don't participate. Like, I'm like, I ain't even participating and being judged, like, yes.
That is ideal. 7, 8, and 9. You
7,
know,
8, and 9.
you are my first guest to come on the show and say,
Uh-huh.
"Yeah, I'm doing three. I'm doing three of them questions. I'm not doing one of them." I had the pleasure of having CJ. Uh, and
Yes.
CJ wanted to tackle all 9 of the
Yes.
questions. CJ was
Yes.
like, "No, I won't do all 9." But he was gracious and he stuck to the one.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to have him come back on and let him have his, because I can see him now.
Yes.
Oh, when this, she got to do 3.
But it was really a combination. So it was really a combination of them for me to, I had to use all three to get the expression, to really make sense and come together,
Right, right.
because
And
it wasn't just,
I had no clue you were gonna do 3. No, no. I just, thought you was just gonna come on and do your own thing. And I said, you want to do a question? And you like,
but,
yeah.
but a lot of, I get asked to do do things very often.
I know.
I probably say no. I
Mhm.
know I do no more than yes. But I loved the questions because they're genuine.
Yep. Yes.
Especially when I saw the question that said, do we, basically you were asking, do we have to go to this back and forth? So how, tell me about this. And that is so real, and I've never really been a small talk person.
Right, right,
So
right.
for me, when I'm coming into any ship, like even if I'm starting a new workplace and it's like people are at some of the things they ask me, I'm looking like, what? You know, because to me, those things, you will get that anyway.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
really have some profound conversations.
yeah,
And that's one thing
yeah.
I do appreciate about my boyfriend is that we have very profound conversations.
I love that. I love.
And I don't want people to think like, oh, goodness, we have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But when we do speak, we speak with authority. We speak with substance. We speak with love. We speak with honoring
Hmm.
where that person is that day, and remembering, like really why we're here, regardless of what's happening, in the outside world, like why we're here, what things really matter,
Hmm.
and bringing it back to that.
Right.
Because a lot of times I feel like, for example, you can go and watch the news, be impacted by that,
Hmm.
go with your partner,
Hmm.
and then you pull that into that ship with your partner based off of something that you didn't even own,
Hmm. Hmm.
you know? And so to me, that's part of that maturity where I can, even if something may be off about my day, I have the maturity and maturity enough to, check myself, get myself together before I come to my partner. Right.
Hold up, hold up. Girl, did you say you check yourself?
Yes. Yes.
So is that something that any of us should really do before we begin interacting and exchanging
Yeah.
with our potential or our partner is check ourselves first.
Yeah. What am I bringing? What am I getting ready to engage, with? What am I bringing in?
Deposit. What
Yeah.
we going to
There you
deposit?
go. Positing. Yes.
What am I getting ready to deposit? So are
Yeah.
the two of you, because you've known each other for so long, the friendship is already incorporated, or are you learning to be friends
We're learning
together?
to be, yeah, we're learning each other. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we've known each other, but we've never been around each other technically.
Hmm.
But when we're together, it's like, okay, I know you. It's familiar. Very familiar. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Very,
Kindred, I'm not, like I say, I'm not one into soulmates.
mm-hmm.
Twin flames, I get it.
Yeah.
Cause my soul is already my mate.
Right. Right.
That's my self-love journey, and
Right.
my soul is already my mate, so I'm not looking for a soul mate,
Right. Right.
because once again, the word itself, soul, sounds inclusive,
Everyone.
for
Mm-hmm.
everyone. Now, so when I want something external
Mm-hmm.
to complement what me and my soul are already sharing with each other, um, then I think of a twin flame,
Mm-hmm.
a flame, I'm trying to stoke it, and all of those such things. So if you were to give someone, if you were advising someone right now,
Mm-hmm.
as we get ready to come to a close, and if on the strength alone of 7, 8, 9,
Mm-hmm.
and they, are in a relationship, or coming up out of a self-love journey, what would you tell them, being a life coach and a motivational speaker and all of the many things that you are?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
I would say the number one thing is sit with yourself for some time. Like really, and a lot of times, I think, but when I say that, people are like, what do you mean? But I actually mean that. Like, sit with yourself, like whether you're at home, in the bed, like whatever your spot is,
Mm-hmm.
and really just get quiet. And those things that come up about yourself, don't, it's not about anybody else.
You
But
mean
those
you mean turn my phone off and just engage in nothing but meanness.
things, yeah.
Don't look at my phone. Don't look at the TV.
Mm-mm.
Don't answer the door.
Don't read a magazine. Don't look in a magazine. You don't need no tarot. You don't need you.
Just sitting with you, yourself,
And
and
it'll
dealing with
come.
whatever thoughts come present themselves.
And I always ask myself, when something comes up, why am I feeling this way? And I keep asking until I get to, oh, that's what this is. You
Mhm.
know, yeah. So even with where I am now, years ago I had this, and I'm gonna use the word fear. I
Mhm.
had this fear of giving all of myself to someone because I had so much practice
Mhm.
with people getting things and then me not getting anything else, right?
Mhm.
So someone would think by hearing that, oh, it was the other person, that they were the taker. But also as a giver, you have a responsibility.
Right.
And so I had to sit with myself and come into my own agreement with myself to forgive myself,
Mhm.
for overloving.
Whew.
Like that's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it
That's
is.
a real thing.
Yes, yes, and I,
You know?
I I could say that I'm definitely one of those over.
Yeah.
I mean, I will, if I decide that you're the one.
Yeah.
I mean, you got it. I mean,
Yeah.
all the love and the,
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
just overflowing. You gonna run out of cups, buckets.
Right. Right.
Fill up
Yeah.
dig a ditch. I'll fill that up.
That's
And
right.
then it's like,
And I had to understand that over loving is not necessarily love,
right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because you love, there's no amount that has to come with it. There is no action. Like
Yeah.
it's just that.
Yeah.
And it'll be seen as that. So I don't have to go out of my way or do anything extra. I can just be,
Yeah.
and for that person, that will be enough,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. Yeah.
So, to my audience, one of the things is to sit with yourself. Sit with yourself. Give up the
Mhm.
phone, turn the phone off, no distractions. Whatever's coming through your mind, address it. And that takes some courage in itself.
Yes.
You
Yes.
because we're taught that if it's a negative thought, you need to replace it with a positive. But when you're taking that self-love journey, that journey into self-love, you got to let whatever come forward, deal with it, so that it flows.
Yes. Everything exists, right? Everything exists.
Uh,
So there's no reason to have to fear anything because everything exists.
yes.
And one thing I know, and I tell people, like when I use the word know, that means I know it. Like we can discuss all you want, but I know it
Mm-hmm.
from experience, from evidence, from
Yes.
and one thing I know is that everything here
Yes.
collectively works for our own good.
Yes.
Everything.
If you
And
embrace
the
it.
more we get
Yes.
into that,
Mm-hmm.
and to be honest, love, I they're saying it's a pandemic and all this stuff is happening and da 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 da. And to be honest, like I feel what I haven't been, and I've had family members been affected by things. I mean, my income was affected by things at some point, but it didn't affect me. Like none of it has not affected me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I know that everything exists. So when you said earlier when we were talking that, COVID has brought growth,
Yes.
you know, how many things happen in order for growth to happen? We have fires, we
Um,
have, so that's just part of the cycle for me. It's
yeah.
always something,
Yeah.
in order for good,
Yeah.
so to speak, to occur. But to me, it's not like a good or a bad. It's just that it all flows together. Like that's the balance.
Yeah.
Like
It's
balance
needed.
isn't this.
It's needed.
Balance is
Yes.
this is
Yes.
balance. This is
Yeah.
not balance.
Look,
Yeah.
look. Here come a wind.
Right. Right.
Balance
Right.
is
That's right. That's the balance. Yeah.
just the balance.
Yeah.
Well, it's
That's
been
the balance.
so wonderful.
It has.
And
It,
before you leave, you have to with everybody. I got
yeah.
my pinwheel. Next time we do one, you're gonna have your own pinwheel. You gotta come with
Okay.
your pinwheel.
Okay.
So together, we're gonna say, be different and love it. Come on, mama.
Be
Be different
different and
and
love
love
it.
it. Sending everybody some. Let me get back to the
Yes.
container.
Thank you.
Yeah, we
There
go.
it
La, la, la.
is.
All right, mama. You keep on enjoying your evening. I really appreciate
I
you
love
for
Yes.
coming on the
Please.
show, getting you to, you know,
Yes.
be right here. I mean, it's
Again.
beautiful. Yes, we are going to do it again with you and your companion. Uh,
Yes. Okay. Love that.
yeah. We want to get him. We want to the mystery man, the mystery
Okay.
man.
We'll
So
get him on.
yeah, we're gonna get him on here, and he's probably gonna do, I don't know how many questions. I'm getting to where now I just give people the questions, and if they want to come on and do all nine, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, the approach.
Yeah.
The most important thing about the show is taking ordinary people,
Hmm.
okay? And when I say ordinary, um, I mean, they don't have to be some celebrity, because we're
Right.
all a celebrity, but in our own right,
Right.
you have your community stars, ships. It's like,
Hmm.
you got the different levels of ships. And I
Hmm.
wanted to make sure that when we're talking about a different approach to love, different approaches, everybody, you can take those same questions and you will not get the same answers or the same approaches, because we honor, like you said, with transparency, you know uh it's about honoring, it's about
Yeah.
respecting someone's past and potentially where they are now. So on the Debra show, it's just about that, a
I love
approach to love, changing up the conversation that we have with love. And we got to start with the mothership. You call your
it.
ship a fathership if you don't want it to be a mothership. It's a
Yeah.
fathership. It starts with that self, you know,
Yes.
because the next time we have you on, I want you to go into self-love, because
Okay.
people use it's almost like,
They throw it. It's everywhere.
is there,
Yeah.
self-love, and I'm like, what do you mean self-love, and what does that look like? And because when people go to describing self-love, I'm like,
Yeah.
are you sure
Yeah.
that's what self-love? Because it still
Right.
sounds like I care about what other people think, kind of
Mm-hmm.
self, how people see me. It's still bringing somebody else into your
I get somebody.
journey when it's just
Yeah.
supposed to be just you and you.
That's it. That's it.
And it must be some fear about the just me and me in that
Mm-hmm.
self-love. But we're going to save that for another time. And
Love it.
be different and love it, audience. Send each other some pinwheel love. I chose the pinwheel, mama,
I love it.
because it, depending on which way the wind is blowing, it's either going to spin this way
That's right.
or
That's
spin
right.
that way. And
Yeah.
girl, and today that wind was so strong, and I was looking at the pinwheels on my porch, and I mean that I thought it was just gonna pick them up and take them on. I mean, it just, they was just so love, and your approach to love can be just like a pinwheel. Add some,
Yeah.
add some color to it. At
That's
least if
right.
it's gonna spin, let it spin with some colors, some dots.
And it's movement. Love is movement. It, you
Yes.
know, moves, it flows, um it's not just about, showing or telling somebody something. It's that what you don't see sometimes. That's love too.
Yeah, because when there's no wind, there's always wind, but when it's not catching it to cause what appears to be movement, it just
Right.
seems to just be there. And like you
It's
say, show
yeah.
up. It just shows up.
Yes, yes,
That's my
yes.
pinwheel
I,
love.
I love
I
it.
love it. So good to see you. We're gonna say
You too.
bye now. Peace.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Mama. Love you. See you
Love you
soon.
too.
All
Okay.
right.
Peace.
Peace.